to behold. Welcome, everybody, piling into the I'll Be Back Southwest go-to meeting room. I'll do introductions in a minute because we've still got a minute, haven't we? I believe up there. I'm going to talk to Derek if he's like above me, some sort of godlike figure in the gantry. I think that is correct, Derek, isn't it? We've still got a few
next to you and mine.
Yeah, next to whatever. And here's the boy. He speaks like from the heavens. So yes, well, look, welcome everybody who's here so far and others who will join us. Welcome to I'll Be Back Southwest virtual at-home version. I've stopped calling it lockdown now, obviously, because well, are we in lockdown? It's very confusing. I don't know. It matters not, though. It matters not, because from wherever you are, whether you're in your home or you're on Southend Beach, right, you're going to have hopefully an inspiring, educational journey through what we call the intersection of creativity, AI, and advertising. And probably as my role here as at the front end is probably to tell you who we've got speaking today, what's going to happen. There is some like extra things. What I will say actually though, just to add, we did one, and some of you were obviously at the first one about 3 weeks ago. So we've kind of we've taken some of our learnings, horrible word, but I'm going to use it, from the last one. So for example, what I should do now, and to give it a sense of feel, because I think now it's 4 o'clock, we should start. We're going to bring some music in. So like they do on like a David Letterman show, we're going to have some introductory music to get us in the mood, right? So I'll just very quickly, it'll be very, very short. Something like, let's go with... Right, there we go. No applause necessary. Back is back, and it kind of is, isn't it? So welcome. There'll be more of that later, and there's a few other things. So let me explain what's going to happen. My name is Richard Norton from Tiny Giant, and there are 5 of us here in the control area, as it were. I don't know. There's myself. There's Kerry, who is co-host. Somewhere on the scene, and you said her. We of course have the godlike Derek Ahmedzai, who is in control of this operation. So if any of you got any thoughts of Zoom bombing us, we'll be on that like nobody's business, right? But he's there, so that's that. But also we've got 2 great speakers today. We have Maria Cadbury and we have James Hirst. You can see them there. Let's all just wave randomly. Now, I'm not looking at the whole spectrum of everybody who's there, and I'm sure that you're waving back, so that's fine. I'll just very quickly explain what's going to happen in the next 59 minutes or so. It might be 58, it might be 60. So essentially, like we say, if you've been to an I'll Be Back before, whether it's in London or it's in Southwest, in Bristol, you'll kind of know what's going on. Slightly different because we're in virtual. It goes like this. I say hello to you here. I will hand over to Kerry Harrison. Kerry's going to do a little 5-minute piece up front. She's going to hand over to Maria, who's going to take you for a 15-minute talk. Back to me, then James is going to do a 15-minute talk, and that should leave us with a little bit of time to ask any questions that you have about the sorts of amazing things that they've talked about on their work today. I will say, as a little bonus, I have alluded to this a couple of times, that we do have a GOAT, the greatest of all time, joining us today. Well, of course, it's magic, isn't it? It's all misleading because it actually is a goat, right? And we are going to be joined at 4:30 by a goat live from a Lancashire farm. I can't see that goat because I'm not going to. So I'll think of a prize or something. If someone could capture a screen grab of the goat, it's basically a 2-week-old goat called Simone, who's going to join us at 4:30 for 10 minutes of frolicking, much like we're frolicking in the kind of digital terrains. But yeah, so the goat is going to join us at 4:30. Keep an eye out for it, right? We won't make a big song and a dance about it. It's just a lovely goat. I don't know. No goats were harmed in the making of that particular segment of this event, but there we go. Anyway, that's enough for me. You've got the gist. If you're ready, Kerry Harrison, I'm going to hand over to you. Have a lovely time with us. And as I say, if you've got any questions for what you hear, save them for the end, or you can put them on the chat, of course. There is chat there in the Zoom room. If you've got any thoughts, comments, questions, we'd be very happy, delighted to hear from you. It's also being recorded, so there's always a chance to go back and look over your favourite bits again. So, Kerry, if you're there, I am handing over to you.
Okay, great. I won't share my screen straight away. Hi everyone, I'm Kerry. I am, as Norts said, the co-founder of Tiny Giant and also the co-host of I'll Be Back. Thanks very much for joining us. It's really nice to see so many faces, and I just think during this crisis it's been lovely to see lots of faces and have some contacts. So thanks very much for coming. As Norts said at the beginning of our I'll Be Backs, I normally do a 5-minute talk. So last time I spoke about how AI was being used to help tackle the COVID crisis. And today I'm going to be talking about AI and branding and algorithmic design, which is covering a couple of projects that we've been doing at Tiny Giant. So I will share my screen and we'll go from there. So, can everyone see that? Yeah, cool. So yeah, I'm going to talk about branding. So anyone who came to our I'll Be Backs at the end of last year will know about our gin. It's the world's first AI gin, and we worked with a distillery in Bristol called Circumstance, who turned an AI recipe into a fully crafted, lovely gin. We use AI to name the product, we used it to generate the recipe for the product, and we also used a range of algorithms as well to create a label for the gin. This was a really interesting project for us, and it was the first time that we'd really dabbled in using AI and algorithms for design. What we did was we actually ideally we wanted them to create a unique label for every single gin, but they decided to just go with one in the end. But we teamed up with an artist called Tim Sutcliffe, who helped us to craft a range of backgrounds, colours, textures, a range of fonts that would sit really nicely with the Moncus Garkle brand. And then we used an algorithm and a tool that Derek created, our technical director, who's also on here today. And it enabled us to take these assets and then to use the algorithm to generate a unique label design. So at the press of a button, you could have a new design for a label. And this was really exciting for us. And there's a few here of some of the early examples that were generated. And this was, the final one they went with was this one here. And this is the one that actually went onto the gin bottle. And it's quite sci-fi looking. It looks quite cool. It looks really different. And we were really, really proud of how we'd sort of done that whole design process. And we learned a lot as we went along. So this year and very, very recently, we've been able to take some of the, and I'm using that word, Norts, because you just said, I hate that word, learnings from this project. And we've taken it through into the world of branding. So we worked with a company called Discover AI, who are based in London. They are a really cool research company who are using AI to speed up the research process. And like Tiny Giant, they're very much about human and AI collaboration. So they use AI to do some of the base work, to speed up some of those early stage processes. And then they have some really smart strategists who then work alongside the insights from the AI to move the process forward. And in our last I'll Be Back, Hannah, who I think is actually on the call today, spoke at I'll Be Back last time about Discover AI and their process, and it was a really great talk. So if you get a chance to go back over that, do visit our YouTube channel and have a listen to Hannah's talk about Discover AI and what they're up to. But we worked with Discover AI on a rebrand. They wanted to rebrand their whole look and feel, including the website. And we thought it would be a really lovely opportunity to use some of those things that we'd learned doing the gin and to apply that in the branding space. So we presented a range of territories to Discover AI, including this one, which is the one that they decided to go with. And this one was very much about putting imagery at the forefront of the brand. And this imagery was AI generated in part, and also we used algorithms to generate the designs. So in terms of the creation of this, we used an AI generated background, so a whole range of AI generated backgrounds, which are the black and white images you can see there. We used a range of colors, so we used all the colors in the color palette that we created for them, which was a yellow, a green, a blue, and a pink, and then some inspirational shots and some really nice textures. So you can see a couple of the rips there that we used that were textures. We put all of those into the algorithm, and again, Derek created this really great tool that allowed us to literally, you press a button and a new design is generated. And this was me playing around with the tool yesterday, did a little video, but you press a button and a new one is created every time. So each one is completely unique. You won't get that again, which in the creation of it was sometimes quite frustrating, because if you forgot to save it, that was it, it was gone, and you'd have to press it again to get something else, but you wouldn't get the same one. It worked out really well as well, I think, for Discover AI, because we wanted to really use stock shots where we possibly could, and to make those as interesting as possible. I think often with stock shots, if you're using those as a brand, you might put them on your website and find out that someone else is using exactly the same image. So this was a really nice way of using stock shots, but giving them a completely unique and different feel. So that was how the tool worked. And then in terms of how it translated, hang on, I have to come out of that. Sorry, I've got to get back in. Does it? Maybe I have to skip first. Oh God, I hate it how it does this. Yeah, so in terms of how that translated, this is some of the output that came from the tool that we created. So there's absolutely loads there, and I think we gave Discover AI around about 300 of these images that they've been able to use across all of their branding assets. So let's have a look. This is what it looks like in situ. So obviously it's not just about that circle, it also sat really nicely in a range of textures and colors and little icons that we've used throughout the process. And again, we worked with a human designer called Charlotte. She's excellent, and she was really great at combining again what the algorithms generated, and also applying her own human skills to bring it a really nice feel to the whole thing. So that's how it looks on design guidelines. And then we also used it, this is the hero image on the Discover AI website now, the new website, which looks really, really great. So have a check that out if you wanted to find out more about them and see some of the branding in action. This is the sort of core image they're using across all of their stuff, but it looked really nice on the homepage. And then it translated then across the board. So we looked at how they were going to be positioned on LinkedIn, in email banners, and these are some brochures and white paper designs as well. So that imagery really is at the forefront of the whole branding, and it just looks really different and interesting. And it's really nice as well for Discover AI, because they're such an innovative and bold company who are doing really different things, and to have branding that sits very nicely with that kind of ethos that they have was really exciting for us. So that's where we've got to with the branding journey, and it's been really lovely to really push that and take it forward, and we're really excited about exploring it further and doing that with other brands, and just really exploring how we can use algorithms from a design point of view. So that's pretty much it from me, so thank you. And I'm going to hand over to Maria now, Maria Cadbury. She's the founder and CEO of Spring, which helps to grow successful tech businesses. And she's also the director of Persello, a social e-commerce and AI-powered influencer marketing analytics program. So she's going to be talking to us a bit more about that. And Norts, I believe, is going to play you in, Maria. So let's go.
Oh, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Maria, thank you. Maria is silent at the moment.
Hello, which is unmuted. Hello, thank you very much, Norts, and thank you very much, Kerry. I am very, very honoured to be here, and I'll be back. So, and thank you for the intro. You've already said I'm from Persello, so that's great. I have just a few slides, not many, but I'd like to just chat through a few things with you. So I'm going to screen share now. Can you see? Great. So yeah, today we're going to talk about state-of-the-art algorithms. But first of all, the reason why I'm talking about this is whenever I talk about the platform, I get the question, two really key questions going. How do you have deep analysis on posts, profiles and audiences within a platform if you only use public data? And then how do you have live data? So these are great questions, and that's what we're going to kind of go through as we chat through this presentation. The key, I think, understanding the landscape is really, really important. So the journey of the influencer marketing data is key. And here we like talk about Facebook API, Facebook Graph. Up until 2008, we could access Facebook API, right? And so there were specialized businesses that if you worked in an agency, you'd actually buy from them, or a platform, you'd buy that data from them. And they had special developers who were really sort of trained in working with the Facebook API and understanding and reporting back on Instagram pro influencers and their audiences. So you get all that lovely rich data. And that was great. And then in 2018, Facebook closed the API, and everybody knew it was coming, but everybody thought they had probably a year or two. So there was kind of plans, future gazing, how do we look at that? But they just turned it off like that. Now, what's remarkable is how resilient and how quick digital is, because the industry pivoted really quickly. So now you can still get that information on influencers, but it's not through the API. It's Facebook released their Facebook graph. I'm not a developer, but for anybody who is and might be on the call, you'll understand, like, whenever I think of a graph, I'm really thinking about how you report on revenue and trends like that and bars, where actually the Facebook graph is nodes and edges, and it's basically how a coder will read and translate that data. So the big key thing here is Facebook has a data dump from their graph every 6 months, and a lot of platforms, they scrape that data. So whenever you look at the data, you're kind of looking at what would have been information on an influencer 6 months ago. Now, a lot of people, the question that I get asked, and anybody who's savvy should ask this question with a platform, what do you do around the API change, Facebook API changes? Because Facebook is continuously changing the goalposts. They put tweaks in and they try and make it really difficult for developers to get this data. But developers know this, and they're kind of, I guess it's the ongoing game, isn't it? How do you get on, how do you pivot, learn, scrape better and better with this ongoing changes? Now we'll kind of go on to us. And I've gone forward. Yeah, here we go. Talk about us. The difference here with us is we don't scrape that data, and this is where it gets quite complicated, or not. If you understand algorithms, you'll understand this. But we sit on top of Instagram and Facebook, and we only use public data. And I think I'm going to just chat through how we do it and what we do it, and then later on, if you like, I can jump in and give you a little demo. Right, but to understand, we have quite comprehensive machine learning algorithms. So to explain that in a nutshell, it's a little bit of, there's a lot to it, but in a nutshell, our data science team have created artificial intelligence-based processes over the course of the last 3 years, or more now actually, but we're well into the 3.5 year, 4 year. The software analyzes public available data of followers' Instagram channels. So what we look at is a combination of data which include avatars, hashtags, comments, location tags. The software generates accurate location statements regarding the active audience of the influencer account. And we talk about the active because it's live data. Now, separately, to make the age distribution of influencer audiences available, the software analyzes the active followers given influencer. Then, based on the collected data, the software generates age statements regarding the audience of influencer channels on Instagram. Now, we use the state-of-the-art algorithms based on recent deep neural network architecture and transfer learnings. So because of that and through that, our data collection is dynamic and ongoing. So it's real-time data, and thus it's given us the most accurate and relevant location, age of audience of specific influencer, which is great. Now, because of this, we do not depend on the Facebook. I've already mentioned it, but I think it's just to reissue on the Facebook and their ongoing changes, because we sit on top of it. Now, I think it's worth, because we're talking about state-of-the-art algorithms, is to look at things like, to say that we use data sets would be an understatement, right? They are building blocks of deep neural network. So previously, the data that we held in the influencer marketing space was all pulled from avatars. So avatars is basically our profile picture. And then you can tell a tremendous amount from a picture in terms of their age, ethnicity, but it's by no means 100%. Now, when you think of the building blocks, Language varies tremendously across, according to age and according to regions. So we use building blocks from the images and also from deep neural network architecture and transfer learnings on the comments. So it's quite a mouthful there. But we use our custom algorithms, and it's our IP. It is our secret source. I do get asked, like, for the data sets quite a lot, and we can't give it, but for the purpose of, you know, explaining a little bit more of how we do it, about how the platforms work. There are out there a number of free algorithms that any developer can access, right? And what we do is we use a combination of Google's algorithms, they're free Google algorithms, from their open API. So we use this along with a few others, and then we mix it with our own. So we have been fine-tuning our algorithm over the past 3 years. And if you consider AI or machine learning to learn, that's exactly what we've been doing. And this is why we've such deep data. Now, what I think is really important is, you know, how do you fact check that? We work with clients all over the world, and when you know your influencer, you have insight into them anyway, and the data always stacks up, which is really nice. And I've never come across a case where it doesn't translate to be pretty much spot on. And that's what's quite fascinating. So with that in mind, should I give you a peek under the bonnet?
Well, you need a show of hands, don't you? You need a show of hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a yes. Let's go in. Let's have a look at the platform. So this here is the actual platform itself, and this is Persello. And we have a huge e-commerce part. So that's one part of it. You can put a checkout and drive e-commerce on any social influencer marketing. You can do influencer marketing directory, we can find them, we do affiliates. But what we're going to talk about here is the post analyzer. So we're going to jump into this part because I just want to show you like what we can pull. So all you really need to do is go to Instagram, copy and paste this link, jump back, drop it in here, and it runs. Now I've already lifted this up to save time because it could be waiting for it to load for ages, but this here is Tiny Giant. I've had a look at your Instagram page. Now, some of the things that we do, we get the basic metrics. We're a bit low, guys, a little bit more activity. No, I'm kidding. But here is the one of the images on your profile. What we do is reverse image checking. So we go through all stock data, and this is really important because as the volumes in the influencer marketing space increase, it's a bit of a problem in the US. It's not quite a concern yet, but we're looking at it here in the UK, and it's down to volumes. It's to make sure that that creative is authentic. It's a real piece of content that hasn't been copied. And Kerry, it's interesting, you talked about this in your piece earlier, where you kind of change the creative a little to make sure it is unique, and that's really important. Now I'm going to jump into another profile here, only because I want to get more of the rich data. Actually, before that, sorry. This is a real key area on brand safety. And we've got a bit of spoof in here. Now, nobody's too surprised, is it? Look at our hosts, Norts and Co. So, but this is really useful information for any client where you're going, great, I can see if this is an influencer and we've got some spoof in there, you flag it straight away. Now, then here we've got, we pull it, because we're reading the comments, we can add so much tech onto it. And this is the benefits of these algorithms. See this sentiment part here? In my last agency, whenever we ran all these influencer marketing campaigns, we had to hire a ton of junior staff just to go through the comments to report back on what the sentiment was. And it's really, really important part of a campaign in the influencer space. And that costs a lot of money. Whereas now we can actually tell you if it's positive or not positive. It's very hard to get this kind of data. So I personally love it. Now these are the three areas: your post, the profile, and then we'll go into the audience. And I'm only going to pull out a couple of pieces on each area just to show you. But here we've got some cool follower data. See this here at dip. Well, it's all questions you ask your influencer. The more you understand with them, the better. But hopefully here she's cleaning up her profile, which is good. And I'll show you why that's important in a minute, because when it comes to paying for influencers, you want to see how many of their followers are real or bots. This is just a nice visual. We use the data to give a lovely visual of like trending, where they sit, what's their metrics, trends, brand mentions. So that's great. Now, to the point I just made a second ago, but male and female, don't forget we're just using public information, and now we're diving into all of this extra detail. This is really important to know what is real and not, and when you're paying money for an influencer, it's key. We do an audience stat, age, skim down here, where they are in the regions, really detailed by city, love it. Now this is a great one for planning a campaign. And for example, we had somebody doing a campaign recently, and it was all around the morning break, and they were going to do a post around 10 o'clock. And I was like, well, if you look at your data, this person is really active at 4 o'clock. So, you know, I understand that the strategy of digital campaign, but you also want to look to make sure you understand where you're spending your money, because you'll spend the same amount for that one post if they spend it here or here. So you just use the data. Hashtags. And then down here is really important. We look at the audience of value calculation. So here we're in the UK. If you were to pay an influencer, they're charging you for these followers. Yeah, in the UK, they've only got 15% of it. But actually, I only want to pay for this amount, the quality amount of real people. So that's kind of just a snippet. That's it for me, folks. It's like, I could talk all day about the platform, but I just wanted to pull out the really big highlights of what you can see and how amazing the state of the art technology algorithms. And, you know, and I think that follows on really nicely from what Kerry's just said to us of like how they've created this gin and, you know, how you get the perfect ingredients. And here we've used it to extrapolate all of this information, and we continue to do it. So yeah, ping me with any questions later. That's all for me, folks. Thanks.
Is that some applause?
Sure.
I can hear some applause there somewhere in the distant back. Did you get that? There's some applause on screen. Thank you very much, Maria Cadbury. There's a few questions that people have, but we'll save them to the end. It's quite funny. It's quite apposite, actually, that you actually put us up on Instagram, because we made a decision right at the start, well, end of last week. We decided to dial up our Instagram starting this very week, funnily enough. Of all the coincidences. So it'd be really nice. We're going to blag a favour, aren't we? To take a snapshot now and find out in a few weeks if that's actually.
Totally.
What I would like, I'd like the fact that, so I'd like to see, if it were Tiny Joan, I'd like to see the racy swingometer go a little bit more to the left.
Yes, okay.
Who decided on the term racy? That's a very Benny Hill sort of
I know. It's got nudity in there as well. I think it's regional, isn't it? Okay. In brackets, nudity. Yeah. Okay.
Racy. So look, right. Thank you very much. And as I say, there is a couple of questions that have come in, actually more than that, and we'll do them at the end, Maria. So thank you very much.
Great.
Ripple from me. We're going to introduce James in a second, actually, to do our second talk here at Back Southwest in a moment. We've got a riff lined up. I'm just going to alert you, just in case some of those who've come in a little bit late, that James, I don't want us to dither and delay, because I think people want to hear what you've got to say with rare design and all that. But that goat is imminently going to arrive at in about 2 minutes. So say, right? It's got the details. So we'll let it in. I don't think we'll stop the tour. If people want to find the goat, because they can go and hunt it down if it pops up somewhere on the screen. But the goat will be in a room. If the goat doesn't turn up in a room, it's going to be hell to pay, because we paid some good solid money to have that goat turn up for you today. So I'm going to be absolutely livid about that. But let's hope. It's a couple of minutes. Anyway, let's carry on with the event and hear what people say. Maria's there. You're staying on the event, aren't you, Maria? You're not going anywhere, so of course. So I would like to introduce now to James Hirst, managing director, I think, of Rare Design. That's correct, James, is it not?
That is, yeah.
I think we first met. I'm sure you must have come to some I'll Be Backs in London, perhaps in the past, yes. But we met officially, didn't we? We may have been in the same room, and me and Kerry up there in London. But I think we met officially at Madfest last year, didn't we? To all intents and purposes, and then we kept that sort of kept conversation relationship, and it's like you told us what you're doing, and it seemed like another perfect story to tell at an event like this. So if you're ready, I've got a riff ready for you. Right, we discussed that. I just got to turn me. Bit of feedback coming on, but you showed me something in your before we started, and I thought it was like, so I'm going to do a little riff and it'll be over to you, right? So just imagine, we've got to visualise now. You're coming down the stairs in the guest room. It's going to go something like. Oh, that does you no favours for your tuning of the guitar, the whamper. James Hirst, everybody. Welcome, James. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Norts. Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Obviously, I've got 15 minutes, so I'll sort of rattle on. And I guess the great thing is that I think it kind of closes us off quite nicely, actually, because obviously Kerry talked at the beginning about obviously the work that you guys have been doing from a brand perspective. So I'm going to take it back to that, in fact, as well, because we're, as our name suggests, we are a brand designers. We are London based. However, I'm calling in today from sunny Chippenham in Wiltshire. So we talk a bit more about sort of creativity and how we're using the AI for our creative. But I don't know if you can see, I can just see you, Norts. I don't know if people can see me, but I'm actually going to share my screen. I was told the other day that I look like I was sort of modelling hair out of the 90s boy band. So no one wants to see that. So I'm going to just quickly jump and share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can now all see my presentation. Can everyone see that? It looks like I'm on the very last slide. Yeah, perfect. Can everyone hear me okay as well? Presume everyone can hear me okay. Fantastic, fantastic. So I also, before I wanted to go on, I think I did just put a quick poll out on the chat, but I guess people were engrossed in what Maria was saying, so I'm not sure how much to it. But so I'm kind of interested to know, I'm presuming there's going to be a mix of kind of creative types and more techie types on this. But as I sort of alluded to, my talk's going to focus much more on the kind of the creative side of things, really. Also linking it back into the first presentation, you had, and obviously Kerry talked about Discover AI earlier today as well. Just as a point of detail, Rare Design, we focus on three particular areas, sort of innovation, strategy and design, but actually where we were from as a business, we were the design function of Clear, which is the business that Jonathan, who started Discover AI, was started as well. So there's a bit of a link back to the last presentation as well. So I thought I'd just mention that. But yeah, as I say, we sort of cover three particular areas: innovation, strategy, strategic communications, and design. So sort of brand design, package design, that kind of stuff. For the purpose of our talk, we're going to focus on the sort of innovation sort of side of things, really. And we're going to talk about, oh, hold on, not working. There you go. So how we are using AI for an innovation and how it can help us design much quicker, much more impactful and really exciting creative ideas for our clients, basically. So that is the theme of what I want to talk about today. Before I go into a bit of the slide, as I say, it's a backwards presentation. I'm actually going to hit you with the creative first. I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that we've been doing. Then I'm going to talk about a bit about the kind of process, but it's going to be a bit like touch on the process. And although I can do a bit of a kind of as Maria did, a bit of a peek behind the scenes as well. And then I'll kind of finish off on a few sort of closing slides, really. So hopefully I'll sort of rattle through it. I'm going to deliberately talk quite quickly, and it's quite visual. So, but before I do that, I don't know if anyone guessed the riff that Norts had played, but this alludes to this video, really. So sort of a quick minute-long video that I want to share.
This is the way I do cut-ups. I don't know if it's like the way Brian Geisen does his or Barrows does his. I don't know. But this is the way I do. I've used this method only on a couple of actual songs. What I've used it for more than anything else is igniting anything that might be in my imagination. I mean, you can often come up with very interesting attitudes to look into. I tried doing it with diaries and things, and I was finding out amazing things about me and what I'd done and where I was going. And a lot of the things that I'd done, it seemed that it would predict things about the future or tell me a lot about the past. It's really quite an astonishing thing. I suppose it's a very Western tarot. I don't know. Anyway, let's see what happens.
So there we go. So that was a bit of a nod to David Bowie and obviously his creative expertise and how he would come up with songs. And I guess, yeah, as I say, that's really kind of how we use AI, really. So jumping straight into a bit of work, a bit of some sort of projects that we've been doing, a bit of exploration we've been doing. Again, don't know if anyone gets the title of this slide. Our answers on a postcard, blame happiness. So what we thought we'd do here is we would look at, I guess, the theme of happiness and how we can explore sort of keywords, etc., along this theme to create a meal, basically. So this is what we did. I won't talk around it now, but I'll just let you watch it. Okay, so that was one. Here's another example. This is around snack time, about exploring snacking occasions. And apparently the goat is in the room. I thought I'd publicly announce that if everyone hasn't seen that on the chat as well. Okay, so that's another one. And there's one more, I promise. And this, obviously, Norts, again, he alluded to when we first met at MadFest. This is something that we did for the guys over at MadFest. Obviously, I'm presuming most of you know of the conference. Obviously, their new theme, Emerge Stronger. So we decided to kind of put this to work and develop a, if Emerge Stronger was a product, what could it be? Okay, so that was that. So some creative there for you there, just to sort of set things up. So what is the story? Why are we doing it? What are we doing? And how are we doing it? So I guess this all sort of starts from a quote from a client of ours, in actual fact. So he came to us and he said, obviously from a large sort of consumer goods business in the US, we've got we're a big business, very complex, lots of sort of processes internally, structures, systems, but our category is really being hit with loads of startups coming in with great products, and we really can't compete. So how do we get our products and services to the market quicker? How do we learn what consumers will buy or what they won't buy? and how can we fail faster. Basically, we don't want to spend loads of money on this, we want to kill it quickly if it's not working. So this idea really was sort of born off this conversation we had with one of our clients sort of a few years ago. So here's another video for you. So that's a bit of a teaser video there. So ultimately what we're doing, we're using NLP and data analysis. We've called it DAN. So DAN obviously, as I say, stands for Data Analysis and Natural Language Processing. But what it is doing for us is enabling kind of innovation, ideation, and concept development rather at speed. And we do this by combining the power of AI and human creativity. So it's not just left to the AI, it's actually overlaying the kind of strategic creativity that we can bring as humans. It's not replacing the original strategic brief that we get from a client. It's basically exploring the creative side of it and forming what we're calling an intelligent brief really for creativity. It helps us challenge traditional creative methods, do things a little bit differently. It puts positioning over preference, as you would have seen from there. So what we don't want is, often as designers, if you're in this sort of world, we know you've been in meetings where a client's going, well, I like this and I like that. Well, actually what we're saying is we can use this process to actually put the kind of the data at its core. And kind of put the consumer at the sort of forefront of what we're developing really. We can explore fat words, words that mean different things to different people. And again, it's our starting point for creativity, which then allows us to create more distinctive, diverse, and hopefully more relevant outputs and at speed. This whole process is from sort of idea to kind of output is 10 days. The data wise, haven't we talked about that, going back to some of that, but the data again, as sort of everyone alludes to, and as we know from working in this world, it's all anything we can find publicly available, anything the client has from a research perspective, but anything, if they don't have research, but we have an understanding of our consumer, we can go and explore and feed that into Dan, who then sort of churns the data from that. Another great way to sort of summarize what we're doing with it is this quote here from a book by, or an FT report by a book called Behold America. And it's that whole idea of you go into a library, you know what you're going to go and find, you know what book you want to get, but actually when you come out of that library, you've probably got about 6 more books as well, because you found other things that source of inspiration really. So really it kind of links into that. In terms of how we use it, just coming off here, okay, a quick demo here. Obviously what we've got here is we've got 2 different data sets. The general data set is just anything that's publicly available. The custom data set is where we've particularly looked at, and in this instance, it's more kind of health related. So health blogs, health publications, health reports, healthy news articles that build around that. And then what we can do is obviously we can search keywords. So up here, you've got mind and body. but we could also search sort of, again, happiness. Let's go back to happiness. So you search happiness, and then it kind of clicks up, and what it does, I spelt it wrong, hence why it hasn't shown. So there we go, add the S back to it, and then you've got happiness. And then so you can see the different data sets. You can see the frequency of words on this data set. So here we can do this, and we can look at what comes up with mental, and then we can look what comes up in various different bits. But as you can see from some of the output as well, obviously this is where the human element comes into it, because there's a lot of words that mean nothing to us as well. So that's where the kind of strategic overlay from a human perspective comes in. So that's that. Back to this thing. Just some more case studies. We've used it for research stimulus in the Discover AI space, I guess. So innovation platforms, ideation. We can explore trends and how that then relates from into a mood board, into a pack concept, and then into an ad set possibly. We can look at need states and how that translates to sort of a comms sort of ad set type world. We can obviously take in a similar way to what you guys at Tiny Giant did with the AI stuff. We can create new brands from it, and again, it's about going from the initial idea right through to the output. In this instance, it was a bit of an identity, a kind of a pack concept, and again an ad set from that as well. But as you see from here as well, these are three here. This is mind and body, social connections, and artisan. So it takes us to a place that as humans we wouldn't have particularly gone from the outset if we weren't using this as well. So we're on 45. I don't want to run over too much. This is another quick slide about Rare, just to sort of to close it all off as well. This alludes back to what I said before. So the reason why we're doing this, we call ourselves the experts in executing strategy. And again, that could be innovation strategy, that could be brand strategy, communications, it could be design strategy, so packaging design. We've come from the thinking space, so we've come from the kind of the insight innovation world, so we can kind of mix it, or play that ground between the thinking and the doing, basically. So this is our little niche as well. So that pretty much, I sort of rattled through that and spoke quite quickly. So hopefully most of you took it all in, but that is kind of me done, other than one last quote. We're not reinventing the creative process, we're augmenting it to make it more effective and more distinctive and more relevant. And then the last thing I want to show you is, obviously the government have told us all to stay alert. No one will know what that means. So we've got some mood boards here, just in case you're wondering what it could mean. This is our perspective of it. That's it. Done.
Is there going to be some applause? I was waiting for those applause. I'll do some applause. I'll do a riff, right? Hey, there we go. Right, I'm going to put that down. That's my guitar duties are done for the day. So a big thank you to you, James. In fact, a big thank you to both Maria and James for your fantastic talks. There are a few questions. Have you got your sound on, Kerry? I just want to double check.
Yeah.
That we can hear you. So yes, really fantastic, fascinating stuff. Exactly what we love about I'll Be Back Southwest. And there are some questions which we'll take in a minute. I will say, because I'm sure some of you out there, some of you that I know and some of you I don't know, were probably thinking, oh yeah, what goat? It sounds like an Elon Musk Bitcoin scam, to be honest. But no, the goat did show up, didn't it? The goat showed up as promised, all the way from Lancashire. And you know what, Kerry? If anything, I think it proved so successful and non-distracting to James as he was speaking, that I think we might put more livestock in the next I'll Be Back. In fact, we might try and go for a whole zoo or something like that. So there are some questions, if you've got time, Maria and James.
Yeah. Should I start from the top?
Yeah. Far away, Kerry. What have you got?
Well, I think the first question came up was actually from my presentation. So from Matthew, Thanks. I'm glad you liked the work. In terms of whether it made it quicker and cheaper and faster, it did, because you literally just press a button and there's a new design. So the likelihood of a designer being able to design that quickly and to do that many versions of one thing that quickly, it really did speed up that process. If we'd have had to have done that kind of look on every single image, it would have taken a designer a long time to do that many. So it did make it faster. I think it made it cheaper from that point of view in terms of time, but also, and as I mentioned briefly in the talk, one of the things that was really good about using that kind of layering effect in the algorithm was that we could use stock shots. So there didn't have to be anything that was like amazingly out there or particularly like gorgeously beautiful or uniquely shot. It was proper, it was just actually normal stock shots, which we were then able to really make really interesting and different. And in terms of, was it cool to do something different? Absolutely. I'd say it was a bit of both. So it was quicker, it was faster. It meant that we could use stock shots which weren't expensive. In fact, pretty much all of them were from Unsplashed or Pexels, so they were totally free. And we did create something very different. So a bit of everything, hopefully.
Yeah, and I would agree with that actually, Kerry,
yeah.
as well. From what way we use it as well, definitely. Our whole proposition is about kind of great design at speed, and this just enables us to do it even quicker and get to a place and start a place that you don't know where you're going to be. We as humans, we all have kind of preconceived notions. When you say a word, we go, well, we think it's this actually, but actually, if we can use the AI to go, well, this is a different starting point and it's very neutral. That's one real benefit. It can kind of take us to a place that you didn't expect to go, but also the data side of things as well, isn't it? The amount of data that's available to us these days, from a human perspective, we can only get through so much. I like the quote, Short Circuit. Does anyone remember the film Short Circuit, Johnny Five, the way he reads all those books? It's kind of that, isn't it? It's like making the computer do all that reading and then spitting out the output that we can then easily as humans distill and take it to creative and spend more time on the craft.
Cool.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you. Question from Jez about Jez. Would you be able to unmute and just ask the question? I'm not 100% sure what you're asking there. Sorry.
No one's 100% sure what Jez Dutton was asking with that question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Just know that the doorbell might go any minute and the dogs will go crazy. But what I meant by that is, as we kind of move from people doing stuff that you can cost by the hourly rate, how do people find that they're costing up work where you're involving data processing or you're replacing a task with something that to clients looks fast, cheap, and easy? So, are people finding that they're able to charge equivalent money in a different way, or are they finding there's a problem with clients thinking, well, we'll just do another round of AI generated images or AI generated headlines or AI generated copy? Because there's always that danger that it's just seen as, oh, just do some more and some more and some more. Where does it end and how do you cost it?
I don't know, James, you might want to answer that as well. In terms of what we did, we just had, we said we'd do 2 rounds. So, and we just set quite strict parameters and said, as we would if we were doing it as humans without the AI, we would do 2 rounds of amends, and then that just stayed there. So I think you could just keep going. That's the thing, especially with what we were doing with that creation. You could just keep pressing the button and keep generating. But we just said we'd do 2 rounds, and if they wanted to do more, I guess they could. But they were happy with what we created within the 2 rounds. So that's what we did. In terms of costing, we kind of just took that into account, that there'd be 2 rounds, and we know how long it takes to generate those designs. So that's how we costed it. But James, I don't know if you did anything different.
Yeah, no, I think similar really. In actual fact, I think we're not, I guess, whilst we are going out and sort of, it's a sort of a product in its own right. I guess what we're trying to do is infuse it into the process that we use generally when we're looking at kind of innovation, concept development, that kind of stuff, brand design. So in a similar way, we have it as when we're talking about the upfront concept development, and we would price that depend on sort of 3 to 5 concepts that we would initially present to them. Mm-hmm. It's sort of into that basically. And the way we price, we have a sort of a project sort of rate card style price. So we go, well, actually, if we've agreed what the project is at the upfront, whether there's going to be more or less exploration as part of that, it's going to be more of a cost. So we don't specifically call out the AI element to it. We're quite lucky that actually it's the way we're developing this. We've got similar to you guys, we've got an in-house sort of data scientist who's creating the tool for us. And again, at the moment, we're not having to spend loads of money on the kind of Amazon sort of servers. So we haven't got loads and loads of storage that we need to kind of cover back, basically. So yeah, we're just costing it that way. But yeah, I think the other way to do it, as well as the other things, conversations we've been having with clients, is actually we don't have to do the execution. We can just, if we want just the intelligent brief stuff, we can just work with them to come up with sort of lots of sort of analysis on the kind of the keywords and territories to explore. And I guess that's a different model where there is the kind of the AI is kind of forefront, and we would cost that differently. But again, that would be a project that doesn't have creativity necessarily involved, but we could kind of add it on if necessary. So I've
got a question here for Maria. You around there, but you've got your microphone on, Maria. Actually, I'll do because I'm conscious of time, and Kerry's going to wrap up. There's a few questions we're trying to get through as fast as I can, but I'll do. There's two here, one from Joanne and one from Kerry. Sheehan, hello out there, you two. Question is, how do you filter for fake account info, and also what you do? Does it work for bots?
Yeah, so when you look, if you remember when we looked at the profile audience insights page, and there was the active audience type. So what we look at is real people, but I guess it's a process of elimination to get to that number. For example, we look at what's influencers, and influencer accounts, like influence themselves with really strong followers. So you can see the volumes there on both sides. We call suspicious accounts no posts or less than 3 posts, and no followers less than 30. So that's bot activity, because you can't say it is what it is. We call it suspicious. Now we also have a label called mass followers. I also think that we could just call these suspicious again, but mass followers is audience accounts who are following more than 1,000 other people, but at the same time don't have a strong following. So some people do, the real people do that, but very few real people. The majority are bots or fraudulent accounts. So we can't filter. Right now we can't. We are looking at whether that's something you would or wouldn't want to do, but it's not really where we're at. But it is something we can talk to clients about. You can say, look, if you want to know what percentage, if you're spending money on an influencer marketing campaign, you really only want to pay for the real people, or real plus influencers, because influencers are real people too, and they have a voice. There's an opportunity to amplify the message. So that's quite powerful in my opinion. But it just means you're really, when clients, in 2019, the trade press around influencer marketing was around brand safety and fraud and concerns there. Here we're going, we can tell you what percentage, and it's your choice to decide if you're paying for that or not. So I hope that answers.
Certainly.
Just another quick question for James. Someone was saying, I spotted some French in there. Do you work only with English data sets? And if so, how about international markets?
Well, that was very eagle-eyed. I think that was on a slide I briefly was on for about a second. Generally speaking, we can do different data sets. Obviously, what you need with the data sets, just if you're doing French or other languages, is German, for example, is the kind of translation side of things, really. So, and that can come, and we have to factor that in. It's a bit slower with other languages than sort of English, but it's, we can train the sort of the system and the data on all different data sets. Basically, the snacking one at the front, that was actually US data again, so that was sort of slightly different data, but again, it was still English data. So we can do different sets, but a bit longer, right, and just translation needed.
Lovely, cool. I think we're going to have to wrap up because we've got about 3 minutes. If you do have any more questions, do feel free to drop either Norts or myself a note. I'm Kerry at tinygiant.io, and we can go from there. And I'm sure the other speakers will be up for any questions if you have any more. But thank you so much for joining us. As Norts has just said on the chat, our next I'll Be Back Southwest is on June the 11th. It's going to be virtual, so do sign up. I think we sold about 1/3 of the tickets already. Get in if you can. We've got a guy called John Ray, who's a strategist, who's going to be talking about innovative tech in the world of food and drink. And we've also got Helen Tanner, who is very much into the world of data, and she's going to be talking about data and AI. So 2 really good and interesting speakers for next time around. So hopefully you could join us there. Hope you enjoyed, everyone. Thank you so much to Maria and also to James. It's so good to have you, and your talks were amazing and really, really interesting. So thank you, and thanks to the goat as well, and to Derek who was at the control today as well. So thank you so much, and we will
Hey Kerry, I've had an idea for the next one.
What's that?
You know, I think the goat was a hit today, yeah, with everybody.
Huge.
Put your hand up on the picture if the goat was a hit today. That's just what I want to see. Was the goat? Yeah, we could get, I think the idea, we could get a live pangolin, couldn't we, from Wuhan market? Imagine that. How topical would that be? That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Let's see what we can do with that.
Right, I think on that note, we will
bombshell.
wrap it up. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody. See you at the next one. Stay safe. Stay well.
Care.
I'm going to play everyone out, shouldn't I, really? There we go. Oh, we still got some. Ian Crocombe, how are you, mate? Hey, we've got the volume. We've got some volume, Derek, on everybody.
About 100 people.
Oh,
Yay!
hey, how are you,
How's
sir?
it going? I'm very good, mate. That was really good. I love